What happens when you take DC's most chaotic anti-hero, give him a hand cannon, and drop him into Dungeons & Dragons? Today, we're building Peacemaker, the gun-toting, eagle-loving metalhead with zero chill, as a fully playable D&D character. If you ever wanted to roll dice while blasting 80s rock and declaring peace through excessive violence, this build is for you. So let's go ahead and dive in, starting with the species. We're going with human. He doesn't necessarily have any crazy powers, so I think it fits pretty well. This gives you the feature resourceful, so you get a heroic inspiration every long rest, which means you get to re-roll a d20, and considering you think you're a hero, it kinda works. You also get the feature skillful, giving you 1 skill proficiency, so we're gonna go with animal handling, so that way you can handle eagerly a bit better, and you get the feature versatile, so you get 1 origin feat to choose from. And I'm going to save that for a minute because it's going to be a bit more relevant when I choose the class. Then when it comes to a background, depending on the origin story you go with, Peacemaker either was a soldier or he's trained by his dad who was a soldier, so I'm just going to choose the soldier background. This gives us skill proficiencies in athletics and intimidation, and it gives us the Savage Attacker feat. So once per turn when you hit a target with a weapon, you can roll the damage dice twice and use either roll against the target. Then before we dive into the class, we gotta talk about this video's sponsor, Describe. Describe is made for tabletop role players. It's got tons of situations, characters, an entire arsenal of music to set the proper mood, and you can just search it by a basic concept in case you're a little stumped on where to go next in your campaign. And personally, the thing I love most is their maps. They have a massive array of maps to choose from, and all of them have additional features that you can hover over to give additional details you might miss with other map providers. They are offering a free extended 30-day trial for those that watch my videos. All you have to do is use the link down in my description or comments down below and use code DNDBuilds on checkout. So thank you Describe for sponsoring my videos. I really appreciate it, and I really recommend checking out that 30-day trial. It's more than enough time to give it a try in your D&D sessions. But now let's get back to Peacemaker. And now let's dive into the class. I was super tempted to go with a Beastmaster Ranger for this build, because I really wanted to incorporate eagerly as much as possible. However, there's a bit of a problem with that. After really experiencing the Peacemaker show, there is no doubt in my mind that Peacemaker absolutely dumps wisdom as an ability score. He has basically 0 insight, barely any perception, and overall, I just can't justify putting any points into it. So I have a different way to get eagerly. That origin feat that we got from being a human, I'm going to grab the Magic Initiate feat, diving into the Wizard spell list. We still won't put any points into intelligence despite diving into the Wizard spell list, but we'll grab cantrips and spells that don't require any, because this origin feat will give you 2 cantrips and 1 first level spell. The first cantrip we'll grab is Blade Ward, so whenever a creature makes an attack roll against you before the spell ends, the attacker has to subtract 1d4 from the attack roll. We'll also grab the cantrip Light, just because you're a human, you don't have dark vision, so having some sort of light source on you can be helpful. But for the first level spell, we're going to grab Find Familiar. This is how we get to replicate eagerly. We can summon our eagle into existence, and they can help you out here and there, either by being a scout for you, or they can just try and peck at one of your enemies and give you advantage on an attack by forcing your familiar to use the help action. Now obviously, if we wanted to incorporate tons of other spells and abilities that Peacemaker might get through his helmet, since he has such a wide array of helmets he can use, we would need a lot more spellcasting. But since it just comes from his helmet, I would say that's you mostly picking up a magical object, so that's what we're going to stick with to replicate all the helmets, because we need to focus on just Peacemaker as a core character. So we're going to keep it as straightforward as possible and go with the class Fighter. And because you became a fighter, you get proficiency in all weapons, all armor, and shields. Then at first level of Fighter, you get a fighting style, and you're more of a marksman than anything else. So we're going to grab Archery. This gives us a +2 bonus to our attack rolls with ranged weapons, aka boosting our accuracy. First level of Fighter also gives you Second Wind, so as a bonus action you can regain a number of hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level, which you can use twice per short or long rest. You regain 1 use on a short rest and all uses on a long rest. At certain levels in Fighter, you get additional uses of this, but then the last thing you get at first level of Fighter is a weapon mastery, and you use plenty of different firearms, but you're most well known for your hand cannon, which is essentially just a pistol, which gives us the weapon mastery feature, Vex. So if you hit a creature with a pistol attack and deal damage, you have advantage on your next attack roll against the creature. Basically, we're already stacking up ways to gain advantage. Between having a heroic inspiration by default, Eagly helping you out, or the Vex weapon mastery property. You also get tons of other weapon masteries, but Peacemaker uses tons of different types of weapons, so just grab whatever fits best for your campaign specifically. Second level of fighter gives you action surge, so once per short or long rest, you can take an additional action, you just can't use it for a magic action. You get one additional use of this at level 17. Second level of fighter also gives you tactical mind, so when you fail an ability check, you can expend a use of your second wind feature to add 1d10 to whatever you rolled. The only downside is that you don't regain hit points if you do it this way. But if you fail that ability check still, you don't actually use that second wind usage. Then at third level of fighter, you get to choose a fighter subclass. And even though you're fairly well trained, I think it's a bit more fitting to just go for broke and go for those big hits. Plus, your general idea of yourself as being this epic hero champion thing, we're going to choose the champion subclass. This gives us the feature improved critical. So now when you roll a d20 for an attack roll, you actually score a critical hit on a 19 or a 20. So we already have ways to get advantage a little more easily, and we're able to get critical strikes a little more easily. This subclass also grants you the feature Remarkable Athlete, so you have advantage on initiative rolls and strength athletics checks, plus immediately after you score a critical hit, you can move up to half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. Fourth level fighter gives you another weapon mastery, so just fill out whatever you need. On the character sheet that I have, that I will be posting on Patreon, I've just been filling it up with basically every gun I can, between automatic rifles, shotguns, revolvers, and they all give different weapon mastery properties. Speaking of those guns, at fourth level of being a fighter, you get an ability score improvement. But you can choose a feat instead, and that's what we're going to go with, grabbing the Gunner feat. This boosts our dexterity score by 1 point. So here's our starting ability scores. Obviously focused purely on physical stuff, because I wouldn't call Peacemaker smart, charismatic, and definitely not wise. So we have strength for those insane muscles, and dexterity to boost up our ranged attacks. But we also need constitution to make sure we can take some hits as well. Then this feat allows us to boost up our dexterity by 1 point, and on top of that, this feat gives us proficiency with all firearms, just in case you needed to make sure you're covered depending on how your DM rules firearms in your game. Ranged attack rolls do not get disadvantage just because a creature is within 5 feet of you, which is super helpful. But I also really wanted it because this feat allows you to ignore the loading property with firearms. The loading property can be pretty brutal. It makes it so you can only make one attack on a turn and then you have to reload. It's a huge pain. If your game does not allow for firearms, what you can do is just swap out everything firearm related for crossbows instead. Still keep the same feel of the character. You just have heavy crossbows and light crossbows and hand crossbows, and swap out the gunner feat for the crossbow expert feat. Overall, it'll basically give you the same features, but just be focused more on crossbows. The crossbow expert feat would also allow you to get a offhand bonus action attack with a hand crossbow if you needed it. Fifth level fighter gives you extra attack, so now you can attack twice per attack action. Then fifth level also gives you tactical shift. So whenever you activate your second wind with a bonus action, you can move up to half your speed without provoking an opportunity attack. Sixth level of fighter gives you another ability score improvement, because fighters get the most out of any class in D&D. But we're going to take another feat. Basically every ranged weapon is going to do piercing damage. So I want to boost this up a bit by getting the Piercer feat. This allows us to boost up our dexterity by 1 more point, rounding it out, and we get the feature Puncture. So once per turn, when you hit a creature with an attack that deals piercing damage, you can re-roll one of the attack's damage dice and use the new roll. So between that and Savage Attacker, you have even more chances to roll high for your damage. But this feat also gives you Enhanced Critical. And with all of the ways we're boosting our chances to get critical hits, this is definitely going to come into play. Because when you score a critical hit that deals piercing damage to a creature, you can roll 1 additional damage die while determining the extra piercing damage the target takes. 7th level fighter gives us another fighting style. And we're pretty well covered. We can wear any kind of armor, so I was tempted to grab defense, but we don't really need that. What we do need is another way to just punch enemies in the face. So we're going to grab the unarmed fighting style. This makes it so your unarmed strikes now deal additional damage. Instead of just doing 1 damage, they now do 1d6 plus your strength modifier. And if you aren't holding any weapons or a shield, that d6 turns into a d8. Then on top of everything else, if you're grappling a target, they just automatically take 1d4 bludgeoning damage at the start of each of their turns, because your grip is so damn strong. 8th level of fighter gives you another ability score improvement, so let's go ahead and throw 2 points into dexterity, maxing it out. 9th level of fighter gives you tactical master, so whenever you attack with a weapon whose property you can use, you can replace that property with push, sap, or slow for the weapon's property for the attack. So you're not just stuck with using one type of weapon mastery property. You can swap them out at will, and push, sap, and slow are definitely good to have in your arsenal. Push pushes an enemy away, sap will make them have disadvantage on an attack, and slow obviously slows down your enemy. 9th level of fighter gives you indomitable, so if you fail a saving throw, you can re-roll it with a bonus equal to your fighter level. You must use the new roll, but you can't use this feature again until you finish a long rest. But once you get to 13th level of fighter, you can use this twice per long rest and 3 times at 17th level. 10th level of fighter will give you even more weapon masteries, and you get another feature from being a champion. Because you think pretty highly of yourself, you think you're a hero, so you get the feature Heroic Warrior. And this feature states that the thrill of battle drives you towards victory. During combat, you can give yourself a heroic inspiration whenever you start your turn without it. But because of the mechanics of how heroic inspirations work, if you already have a heroic inspiration and you gain another one, you can actually give it to an ally. This means you're constantly boosting up your allies if you want to feel a bit more heroic. But if you just use them for yourself every single turn, that's fine too. 11th level of fighter gives you another extra attack, so now you can attack 3 times per attack action. 12th level of fighter gives us another ability score improvement. And you're pretty strong, you're able to punch people in the face pretty hard, and we already maxed out our dexterity for all of our ranged attacks, so let's just throw 2 points into strength. 13th level of fighter gives you studied attacks. So, if you make an attack roll against a creature and you miss despite all of your other advantages, you have advantage on your next attack roll against that creature, meaning you have even more ways to gain advantage constantly. At this point, you should basically have advantage on every one of your attacks every single turn, because Vex is going to give you advantage on one of them, Eagly is going to give you advantage on another, and at least one of your heroic inspirations can be used every single turn, meaning you have advantage one more time. 14th level of fighter gives us another ability score improvement, so let's go ahead and max out that strength. 15th level of fighter gives you superior critical. So now you can score a critical hit on an 18, 19, or 20. And considering you have 3 attacks, each one of which can be at advantage, your chance of scoring a crit is insanely high. 16th level of fighter gives us another ability score improvement. But the main thing we have left is to basically just boost up our hit points. And since we don't actually have much of a use for our constitution outside of an occasional constitution saving throw, we get more health by taking the origin feat Tough, which gives us an extra 2 hit points of health per level of our overall build. Whereas boosting up our constitution by 2 points would only boost us up by 1 more point of health. 16th level of fighter gives us another weapon mastery, 17th level boosts up a whole bunch of other features, and then 18th level of fighter gives us the feature Survivor. So you attain the pinnacle of resilience in battle, giving you 2 features. You gain advantage on death saving throws, and when you roll an 18, 19, or 20 on a death save, you gain the same benefit as rolling a 20. Meaning you get 1 hit point back and you're just brought back to consciousness. Additionally, this Survivor feature gives you Heroic Rally. So at the start of each of your turns, you regain hit points equal to 5 plus your Constitution modifier if you're bloodied, and have at least 1 hit point. And that can be even more powerful because at 19th level, you can choose an epic boon. And with all of the ways that we're able to regain hit points, we're going to grab the epic boon, Boon of Fortitude, because this gives us fortified health. So your hit point maximum is increased by 40 points. But on top of that, whenever you regain hit points, you can regain an additional amount of hit points equal to your Constitution modifier. You can only do that part once per turn, but that means your Heroic Rally feature now gets additional hit points every single turn. Your Second Wind feature gives you additional hit points every time you use it. And overall, it's just pretty damn powerful to add into the mix. And then at 20th level of fighter, you get 3 extra attacks, meaning that you're getting 4 attacks per attack action. You can use Action Surge to turn that to 8 attacks in a single turn. And considering you can ignore the loading property, that is some serious rapid fire from your hand cannon. Granted, you might not be able to get advantage on every single one of those attacks, but you're still going to have advantage on plenty of them. And you have a pretty massively high chance to score a critical hit as well. And that brings you to 20 levels overall. I hadn't actually watched Peacemaker until somebody suggested that I build him in the comments, so I started diving into the show, and I absolutely love it so far. If you want access to a character sheet for this build or any of my other builds, feel free to check out my Patreon, linked in the description down below. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know by hitting that like button, and I'll be here helping you roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you want to be a superhero or soldier who loves peace so much he's willing to kill for it, and play as Peacemaker in Dungeons & Dragons.